Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Garden of Sports.
Yeah, welcome back.
How's it going, everyone? We're back with another episode of our hockey pre-draft series.
Yeah, today we're going to go over sleepers for this season and also players Zach is down on this year.
Yeah, so it shouldn't be a crazy long episode today. I'm just going over about 15-20 of my kind of breakout / sleeper candidates for this season, and then I have about 10 players that I'm kind of down on that I think that I'm at least going to be avoiding this year. And obviously, as always, take whatever we say with a grain of salt because everyone has their own personal biases for their sports. So this is just my opinions. So take it for what it's worth. Put it as like a tool in your tool bag.
Yeah, but you know more than most on all these names and the depth of teams, so it'd be good to hear all that.
As you're the one that has 2 championships and I have only
Well,
one.
one was an auto draft team, so this the first one I earned was last year. But yeah.
All right, without any further ado, though, we'll start it off with the sleeper candidates / breakout candidates.
All right, let's get it.
All right. So first up on the list is I'm pretty high on Brady Kachuk for this season.
Okay.
He's still very young, and he's the most talented of the Kachuk brothers. And he's been getting better each year. He's played 2 full seasons now. And usually how it goes in hockey is usually that third year they take that leap into like superstar player. And I think that he could be an easy like 80 plus point player this season, and he's not the highest ranked guy. You can get him in like those mid rounds. So I think this is the perfect year to get the most out of Brady Kachuk at a lower draft pick because he's probably going to be a first round pick every year after this season.
Oh wow, first round. So when can you get him right now? 5th round or
like around 4th, 5th. Maybe if you're in a shallower league, maybe like 3rd round. But he's not like super highly ranked. He's like ranked in like the late 30s, early 40s when I was looking.
Okay.
So yeah, definitely one of my top breakout candidates for this season.
For sure. Awesome.
And if you're in a league that has like hits, blocks, stuff like that, he's a very good defensive player too, and a very physical player as well. He kind of, if you're doing categories, he's going to give you even like points in all categories. So I think this is going to be in a categories league, a very good player to draft to kind of later.
For sure. What about Zach Hyman?
So this is another guy that's kind of you can get later, and he could definitely I think I kind of have him slotted for maybe as like his ceiling this season could be like a 60 points, somewhere around there. He is a very talented player who's been playing on Toronto. Last season he kind of started playing on the first line with Austin Matthews and Mitchell Marner, and he was really, really beneficial from playing with those two. And now this offseason, he goes to the only team that would put him in a better situation than he was in Edmonton. Now so he goes from playing with Austin Matthews and Mitchell Marner to playing with Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl. So Zach Hyman, he's a happy guy. He's going to get easy points.
Yeah, so
I think
here's a question from me. He signed a 7-year deal at the age of 29, so is his style of play just like a longevity style that he'll be good for 7 years? Like, obviously they believe in him.
No, so the 7 years, they probably just wanted to get him because he's turned himself into lately a kind of a talented scorer. And they wanted to have another guy to pair with like Connor McDavid, so it's not just McDavid and Draisaitl, and then and then a bunch of other guys, They want like a third one for that line. And I think that was a great move for them. But yeah, he actually plays a very physical game, so he's actually prone to injuries.
Okay.
But maybe they won't be asking him to do that much.
Yeah. Okay.
So.
Yeah, I was just wondering. You usually don't see that long of a deal at 29, but he'll be good obviously this year. So.
Yeah, he's not like a first or second round pick or anything. So I kind of have him in that sleeper category because I think he's going to outperform where you draft him, unless you way overdraft him.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure in our mock draft episode we got him kind of late.
He was available way late, and we were doing a 12-team mock draft.
Yeah, so definitely be on both of our watch lists and probably our leagues if they listen to this.
And then these next two, I'm going to kind of combine because they're both on the Montreal Canadiens. One is going to be still considered a rookie season in Cole Caulfield, and then second season, I believe, for Nick Suzuki, because last year was his rookie year. Mm-hmm. Both of those guys, Cole Caulfield, they brought him up right at that point where he can play a certain number of games at the end of a season and it won't count towards like a rookie year.
Okay.
So everything that he did last year like doesn't really count as anything. And he was a really high pick a couple years ago. He played they bring him up at the end of the season not expecting much. He ends up going off and he ends up making the playoff roster and they go all the way to the Stanley Cup final with him kind of like leading the way as a rookie. Cole Caulfield. So, and he's not really super highly ranked. You can get him in later rounds. Very small sample size, but he looked like he belonged in the league and he's going to be a one of those next young star players. And then Nick Suzuki, his rookie season was last year. He played the whole year. He started off, he had a very good first half of the year. Then he kind of started slowing down a little bit, and then he was picking it up toward the end of the season and into the playoffs. And he looked like Cole Caulfield and Nick Suzuki looked like they could be like a Kane and Taves type in the future, like a nice little duo. And the two of them, very talented young guys on Montreal that you can get later. And I think that they're going to be poised to continue what they did last year and maybe be even better.
Will Caulfield get the minutes, though?
That's the thing about Montreal is they split their minutes evenly among all four lines. They like to roll out four lines. They don't have like just a checking line that gets like 8 minutes a game on the fourth line. All their forwards average about 12, 13, 14 minutes. So he's not going to give you a ton of minutes, but he's playing with a very talented line, and I think they're going to be out there for a lot, and he's going to be on the power play, so he'll get a little more minutes there. But I think he's poised for like a breakout season.
Sweet. What about our boy Seth Jones?
Yep. So obviously, you should know by now that Jake and I are in the Chicago area, so we're big fans of all the Chicago sports teams. So we were both super excited to get when the Blackhawks got Seth Jones. So I'm expecting big things from him in Chicago. He's got all the ice time that he could possibly want, and he's got all the power play time that he could possibly want. I think I don't really see a scenario where he finishes with under 60 points this season, and I think he's going to have 20 plus points on the power play. So if you have him in a league with keepers, I strongly suggest you keep him. And I think that you can.
Are you
draft this guy?
Him?
I am keeping him.
I know you were on the fence.
Changed it. I ended up not keeping Quinn Hughes. I think I can maybe get him in the draft. And I ended up not keeping Andrei Vechnikov either. I ended up keeping Alex DeBrincat over him.
Okay.
So I'm pretty happy with my four keepers.
So Seth Jones, for people who will be able to draft him, would he be like ranked?
Yeah, he's
one of your top sleepers because he's obviously higher rounds than Brady Kachuk.
Probably. Right? I'm actually looking over my whole list here. Yeah, he is my top. Top breakout candidate. I think he's gonna he's going to be a top
Yeah,
five
because
defenseman.
like in our league with the defensive points, he'll probably be like a 4th-round pick, like if he wasn't kept. But he could finish like a 2nd-round value, right? Kind of deal. Okay.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So he's definitely early draftable. Even if you're not in a league that has like defensive points, I think you could still draft him in like maybe the 4th, 5th round. I still think that, or maybe even 3rd if you really need a defenseman.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's gonna be one of the top scoring ones this season.
Heck yeah.
And then our next one, another defenseman, a young defenseman on Ottawa, looking like he could break into that superstar category. Thomas Shabbat. I've been a fan of this guy for a while now. Really like his game. There's not something that he can't do. He's not just an offensive defenseman. Like a lot of guys play defense, and all they are good for is scoring points. They don't do much of it in helping their team and actually playing defense. But this guy can literally do it all. He plays great defense, and he's a great offensive player too. And he's got a really fast slap shot. There's a lot to like about him. I think he's just going to continue being a great player, and I think he's going to take that in even have a bigger breakout year this year. Because I actually think Ottawa as a team is going to have a breakout year. And if that's the case, he's going to be one of the guys leading that whole group of young players that they have. So I'm pretty high on him, and I know you can get him kind of late. He's never really one of those guys that's up toward the top of the defensemen.
Mm-hmm.
So
is it just because the team isn't that good, or?
Yeah, it's been really mainly that because the team has not been good for like 3 seasons now.
He's missing the last 4 games of the preseason, but they think it's not a long-term thing, so should be good.
Okay. And then moving on, our first goalie that I have on here, I'm pretty high. A lot of people are kind of low on him, but I'm pretty high. I'm going Oppo on all of that talk. I'm pretty high on Frederick Anderson. Okay. I think he's still a great goalie, and I think he's going to do well in Carolina. He moved from one good team to another good team, and I think he's going to get, plenty of playing time, and I think that he possibly could be playing behind a better defense now. And I think that he's going to put up great numbers. And I don't think that because of the way everybody's talking about him, you can get him kind of late, like in the mid rounds to late rounds.
Okay.
And I think there's great value to get Frederick Anderson this year.
Sweet. Yeah, I'm not seeing anything right now on him, so we could probably go Johnny Hockey. He had a down year, right?
Yeah, so Johnny Hockey, he had like that really big breakout year. Is that 3 years ago now?
Yeah, 3 or 4.
I think it was 3 because there was the very next year that he like performed like not great at all. And then last year he did a little better, but still kind of not where you'd think he should be. I think he gets back to that this season. I think Calgary as a whole, back to being a regular hockey season where they were just playing in Canada last year. I think the whole team is going to be better this season, and I think everybody's going to have a bounce back year. And I think he's going to be one of the top performing guys from where you can draft him because he's kind of fallen lately with the way he's been playing. Okay. So I think he's going to be a guy that gives you great value in like the 4th, 5th round.
Yeah, and he's still only 28.
6th round maybe. Yeah, he's still young. He's got tons of talent. They don't call him Johnny Hockey for no reason.
He should. I mean, I was expecting it last year. I don't know. I mean, he's probably being drafted for name value at this point too. But
pretty much, yeah. You can if he's there in like the 10th round, I think he's worth a pick for sure. Like he's probably going to go before that, but
for sure. What about Matthew?
Yeah. And then I could have grouped him in with this next guy too, like Matthew Kachuk. I think he kind of, for the first time in his career, had like an underperforming year last year, and I think that's just because of the COVID year and the weird scheduling and the short season. I think I don't think Calgary handled all that very well. So I just think in general this is going to be a new year for them to reset and start over. And I think they're they have a lot of talent on that team. Matthew Kachuk is one of the best players on that team. I think he's going to have a bounce back too, and you can get him kind of later because he's fallen just a bit.
He's only 23,
and yeah, he's going to have I think he's definitely going to have a bounce back, and give you great value for where you can get him. And then moving on to the captain, Jonathan Toews. These last 2 seasons, he's kind of started putting up really good offensive numbers again, like he did when he was younger. He kind of had like a 3-year drought where he just wasn't putting up a ton of points. He'd finish on like the 40 points, 50 points, and then all of a sudden he got 80, and then I think he was in the mid 60s, maybe lower 70s 2 years ago, and then didn't play last year. I think he's gonna come back, and maybe take him a few weeks to get his feet under him because he missed a year, but I think he's going to put up over 60 points again this season, just because I think this Blackhawks team is going to be much better than it's been the last couple of years with all the off-season moves they made.
Preseason game, he won 15 of 21 face-offs and played 22 minutes and 48 seconds. I mean, he's back.
Yeah. So I think, and I don't think he's going to be any kind of early draft pick just because they have him kind of ranked as no one knows what to expect from him. So you're going to be able to get him in a pretty decent round where you're going to be surprised. It's going to be a bunch of guys, and then you're going to see him in the rank, and you're going to be like, oh, wow, why is he here? And he's going to be like an obvious draft pick at that time.
Yeah, even 2 years ago, he was super late. I mean...
Yeah, he always goes late, and he always gives you... he's always rostered. He's never on waivers. So, he's always on a roster. He always plays good enough to, where you don't want to get rid of him. So
yeah, he's always over a 3-point average.
Yeah. In a categories league, too, he's a great pick for that because he does so much.
What about Jason Robertson?
Really high on this guy. He kind of came out of nowhere last year on Dallas, who's already a pretty talented team, and he, as a rookie, was definitely one of the finalists for Rookie of the Year. He played great. He's one of he could be like a building block of the future. That's how good he looked. He just looked very, very calm, collected, poised out there. Is such a young guy. I think he's gonna have a bounce back. And I think he's going to take it to an even higher level.
Is he on the first line, or is he...
I think he was playing on the second line, but they have a very deep team. That's still a good line to be on.
When did they get bounced last year? Dana?
I want to say I don't think they made the playoffs.
Oh, really? I thought they had a good year.
Yeah, they didn't. No, they didn't make it. They just missed.
It tells you how much I watch regular hockey, guys. I'll be watching more this year.
Yeah, it was just a weird year. I think Dallas is a good team. They're gonna make. I think they're gonna be a tough team to beat this season.
Sure.
And then moving on to Patrick Laine, I think you can take last year and throw that in the trash. He's proven that he's a great offensive player. He was on a team that had this coach. This ancient coach that ran this ancient system that's like this defensive system.
Okay.
And Patrick Laine does not fit that type of team.
He needs a fast pace.
He needs a fast paced offensive team. And they're gonna get that this season with their new coach and their new system that they're gonna do. Patrick Laine is gonna be available really late, way, way later than he should be. And he's gonna put up a 40-goal season. So you can definitely be looking for him in the later rounds. He's going to get back to what he was doing 2 years ago.
Okay.
And he's going to be one of the best players in the league.
All right. That's a big statement. Yeah, he's only 23. It's like these guys go off early and then fade. So hockey's kind of like baseball in that way, where it's just up and down years for players, right?
Well, Hockey used to be a lot like baseball, where the rookie players, they would take multiple years to come up and actually join the big club. But now more than ever, you got these 19-year-old kids actually making the NHL teams. It's kind of the last 5 years. It's shifted from guys having their rookie years at like 22, 23 to having their rookie years at like 18, 19. It's kind of crazy. But the talent level is just getting that good.
Yeah, and last year is just, I'm looking at his stats right now. There's no way he can't just go up from here at this point.
No, that he's not going to get worse than he was last season.
Yeah.
So he's either going to be worth where he's going to give you where, he's going to give you worth where you draft him, or he's going to way outperform it. Because I don't think anybody's taken him in the first 5 rounds.
No, I got him. I think I got him super late in our mock. So
Yeah.
if you guys look at the mock draft podcast, you'll see where we got him.
So now we're going to move on, talk about a couple Carolina Hurricanes. We're going to talk about Martin Nietzsche and Andrei Vechnikov.
Okay.
I think both of them are going to be breakout candidates. Svechnikov, kind of disappointing last year after he had that really good breakout year 2 years ago where you're like, oh, this guy's going to be a superstar. Kind of a disappointment last season. And I want to chalk it all up to the COVID year and everything. And Carolina, very deep team, kind of similar to Montreal, where they like to even out the minutes on all 4 lines. But if you watch their games, he might not score, but you always notice him when he's on the ice. He's always doing something, whether it's, doing some kind of crazy dirty dangle move. He missed on a lot of shots last year. That's probably, the trend is he's probably going to get more goals this season. That's usually how it goes. You usually get lucky, unlucky type things every season.
Mm-hmm.
And last year he just was getting unlucky, and that's usually just in a season when that stuff starts happening. It gets becomes this mental thing where it's just what happens the whole season. You just get unlucky with pucks bouncing off posts and shit.
Okay.
And then Martin Nietzsche, as a young guy, he's a year younger than Svechnikov. He was drafted a year after him, so he was in his second year last year, and really performed super well. He looked like he could be one of the young rising stars in the league, and Carolina has drafted super well the last 5 seasons. They have all these young guys in the pipeline that they just keep bringing up every season, and they're carrying them to playoff runs. And I think Martin Nietzsche is going to keep breaking out and being, I think he's going to move his way up into, being one of those star players in the league.
Yeah, it looked like he didn't back down in playoffs either.
Yeah, he had a great regular season, and then he took it even farther in the playoffs. Became a leader, and he looked was looking very good out there. So I think he's going to take that and run with it this season, turn himself into a top player.
Yeah, definitely put him on the watch list here.
Now we're going to move on to another defenseman. This guy on Columbus had a great rookie season, and then and then after that rookie season, they got Seth Jones, and Seth Jones became the guy. But Zach Werensky, I've always kind of liked this guy, but he just, after his amazing rookie season, he just kind of took second fiddle to Seth Jones.
Okay.
And he became the more defensive guy than the offensive guy. Well, that's about to change this season with Seth Jones in Chicago. Now Zach Werensky is the guy on Columbus with this new coach and new system. I think he's a guy that could surge.
Yeah, I mean, they think that too with the contract he signed.
Yep, they definitely think that, but fantasy doesn't think that. You can get this guy super late, and he could easily finish as a top 10 defenseman. I could see it.
Really?
Because he did as a rookie. He did as a rookie when he was the main guy, doing all the offense and playing the power play. Because I remember I had him that rookie season, and he averaged over 4 points.
Yeah.
Fantasy points
per
game.
Were they better that year than they will be this year, though? The team as a whole?
I'm pretty sure that was either... I think it was the year before they got Panarin.
Okay.
So they didn't have Panarin, but they had a good team that year. They made the playoffs.
Okay.
I remember that they were
this year. Will he have
just
enough around him where he can still just be playing that role?
Yeah, I think so, because I think he's going to be on the power play, passing to Patrick Laine and being, racking up power play points and assists.
Gotcha. All right.
And so I think he's an easy breakout candidate. He might be my second one behind Seth Jones.
Wow. All right.
Yeah, I'm pretty high on him for this season. Just because I know I can get him late and nobody's going to take him like really early. And he's going to way overperform where I'm going to try and get him at. And then moving on to Winnipeg, Andrew Copp.
Okay.
This guy just, he's not a guy that a lot of people know, but last year, kind of a breakout season. And I think this is a guy that has the talent to easily put up, 35, 40 goals. He's might bump up to that second line and get some power play time. I'm pretty high on Andrew Copp, and you can get him in, like those mid to late rounds. And I think that's a very great pick where they kind of have him ranked.
Okay, yeah. He signed a 1-year deal with Winnipeg. He set a career high last year with 15 goals and 39 points.
Yeah, I think he can turn that into double that goals this year.
Sweet.
And then next player on the Philadelphia Flyers, Joel Ferriby. He kind of had a little bit of a breakout last season because their first game of the year, he scored a hat trick, and I think he had 6 points, and he had a hat trick and 3 assists, and it was kind of crazy. And so he started off like super hot. And then he had he kind of really slowed down toward the middle of the season, and then he kind of picked it up again at the end. And he's so young. I think he's like 21, 22, maybe even a lot younger than that. He might be only 20. Like, he's just a young guy.
He's 21.
Who, yeah, he's gonna get more minutes this year, and I think he's gonna keep be one of those guys that gets better every season. So I think this will be a good year to maybe draft him and toward the later rounds, and has a very high ceiling.
For sure. How long do you wait on a guy like this if you draft him?
Oh, he's not going to be highly ranked. He'll be toward the end of the draft, and he'll be a slam dunk pick for those picks.
All right. Vladimir Teresenko.
Yeah, Vladimir Teresenko. So they probably have him ranked in like the second, third round still. But I just have questions. I think he is going to be fully healthy finally, and I think he's going to have a good year. But normally this guy's a first-round pick, so I think getting him in the second or third round is still value I think he's going to put up numbers this season.
Yeah, and the team could just play better as well, right? I mean...
Mm-hmm.
And it was a shoulder, right? For 2 years, the same shoulder?
Yeah, same shoulder. He's had that shoulder issue.
So he could just pop it out again, but he's only 29. I always target him. I don't know.
Yeah, he gives you good numbers when he plays.
And he usually averages around 3 or over that. I mean, it's not...
Yeah.
I don't feel like there's a huge amount of risk, and if he gets injured again, you just drop him.
Mm-hmm. And then Jack Hughes on New Jersey. I'm a pretty big fan of this guy, and he kind of started to break out last season, but then just New Jersey went from like a pretty decent looking team to just straight dumpster fire in like the middle of the year.
Yeah, I remember the beginning of the year, it was like you had to grab a Devils player. Including the goalie.
There's like a month and a half where they were like looking like an up and coming sleeper team, and then they just the wheels came off.
Weird, yeah.
It just but I'm looking at him to continue that breakout and actually put together a full breakout season because he's got all the talent. It was on display last year. If you ever watched the Devils game, he was very noticeable on the ice. He's just slowly starting to put things together, and the game's starting to slow down for him. And I'm just banking that this year is going to be the first year that, that breakout happens.
Yeah, he's only 20 years old. I mean, is he the leader, the captain of this team? No. Who is it? I mean, they're all young, right? For the most part?
Yeah. I think it was Dougie Hamilton, but it might be Dougie. They might give it to Dougie Hamilton now because he's on New Jersey now. Now we'll move on to the Philadelphia Flyers again. Defenseman, Rasmus Ristalinen. He goes to Philly from Buffalo, and he was always one of the with last year especially with Jack Eichel, not being hurt all with Jack Eichel being hurt all last season. Ristolainen was like the only like rosterable player from Buffalo, that dumpster fire that they were last season. He always puts up good fantasy numbers. He's always a nice defenseman to have on your team. And now being on an actual team, I think he's just going to do even better than he already was doing. So I think this guy's an easy breakout candidate to take his game to a new level on an actual like NHL team.
Well, I don't know. I feel like I always read in the fantasy forums like this is the next. He's gonna break out finally. Like he's gonna break out finally, and then nothing happens.
Well, he puts up good numbers usually every season still, though.
I think 2 years ago he was really good, right?
Well, he was good last year. I know that he still averaged like 3.5 last season.
And the year before was where he had like 4.
Yeah, I think it was the year before where he averaged 4.
Maybe it's just something of the year I had him and he wasn't crap, but yeah.
Okay. Well, that sucks to suck.
Apparently.
And now moving on to Carolina. So this new defenseman that comes in, Tony DeAngelo. With Dougie Hamilton out, a lot of people, including me, are banking on Tony DeAngelo picking up those minutes and maybe not scoring as much as Hamilton did, but still being a serviceable defenseman and, you know, being on the power play, racking up assists, you know, maybe scoring a few goals. I think he's going to be a very good player, maybe finish with over 50 points and get you some power play points.
Sure, and he averaged 19 minutes and 25 seconds so far in the preseason. Will he get more than that, though? More minutes?
I think he could, but he also didn't play at all last year, so they're probably starting to ease him into more ice time.
Yeah.
He's got to get his legs
if he gets to like
him.
26 minutes, I mean, you have to roster him. It's going to be a steal.
Yeah, he definitely will be a steal. I don't think he's going to be really high on a lot of people's draft boards.
For sure.
And then Eli Tolvanen, he's going to wrap up my list of sleepers. He had his rookie season last year on the Nashville Predators, and he took that an opportunity and ran with it. They were looking like such an inept offensive team last season. At the beginning of the year, they could not buy goals. They would lose so many games, like 2-1, 3-2, or 1-0. Like they just had trouble scoring. And then Eli Tolvanen comes up and breathes life into their offense and their power play, which was like ranked like toward the bottom, if not last, in the whole league. Until he comes up and just starts scoring a bunch of points, and
he's getting those hits.
Gets those hits. He's a well-rounded player. Really high on Eli Tolvanen, and you can definitely get him in those mid to late. Maybe I think I saw him in the mock draft we did, like toward like the last round, and that's like a steal.
Mm-hmm.
He's gonna play a full season, and I think he could finish with he has the talent to finish with like over 30 goals and get you power play points.
Okay, yeah. I'm kind of surprised by the hit stat. But in our league, that's just gonna be next level.
Yeah, he bangs. He bangs and he scores.
Oh my god.
All right, so that's all the list of sleepers. If you have anybody that you think I might have missed or anyone that you want to add to the discussion, feel free to leave it in the comments.
Sure. Yeah, how about the players you're down on this year?
So this is kind of a smaller list. There's not a ton of guys that I don't think are so terribly ranked. But there are a couple that I'm kind of just looking to stay away from. So I'm going to start with Mike Smith, the goalie on the Edmonton Oilers. Yeah, Edmonton's a pretty good team. This goalie, he's over 40. How long is he going to keep putting up like decent stats?
So he's 39.
I have a feeling that some of his like I just have a feeling that his goals against average or his save percentage is gonna drop a little bit. I don't think it's gonna be in like the mid 90s. I think it's gonna.
Does it help that he plays with like such a potent offense though? So like he's kind of
helps.
Kind of resting a little bit more. He doesn't have to be.
It helps, but they have him highly ranked because of that, and I think you can get better goalies later than you can, where they have Mike Smith ranked.
Yeah, I saw he's already 90% owned though. So yeah, if you just want to let someone else draft him.
And that's the only reason that is because of Edmonton.
Yeah.
And I understand it. There is something to that, but I think, you can get like Frederick Anderson later than that. So I'm just off the Mike Smith train. He can be somebody else's.
For sure. Yeah, somebody's going to take him.
Problem. Yeah. And then moving on, the defenseman Jeff Petrie. He very well could have another great year like he did last season. But he's just getting up there in age, and I don't know that he can be able to repeat that insane pace that he was on.
Okay.
So,
I think he should be back in time. He fractured his finger Game 3 of the Stanley Cup. Or second round of the Stanley Cup playoffs.
Yeah.
But he'll be back. 33 years old.
Yeah.
Does he usually go high? I mean, I feel like I don't see his name a lot. Maybe I just...
He, he doesn't... He's going to go higher this year, though, just because of where he was last season.
Okay.
Like, I'm kind of looking through here.
Oh, yeah, he's heavily owned in the ESPN league, so...
Yeah.
All right, for sure.
So, I'm just I've always been kind of off that Jeff Petrie train. He's just not the most consistent guy. He'll go off one year and then he'll be average the next year. So I don't know if he's found consistency now in an older age and finally a team that he fits in. But I'm just, I think I can get guys that I usually go for more younger guys. He's just not a guy that I'm going to be looking at this season.
For sure.
And then moving on, a goalie on the Toronto Maple Leafs, Jack Campbell. A lot of people think that it's going to be a 50-50 split in Toronto with Jack Campbell and Peter Mrazek, and I'm just not sure that that's going to be the case. Jack Campbell got more playing time last year out of necessity with Anderson dealing with injuries and needing like a mental break. I don't know that Jack Campbell is really all that talented of a goalie. There's a reason that he's always been a backup his whole career.
Okay.
So I don't think it's going to be a 50-50 split, and I think anybody that drafts Peter Mrazek late, where they have him ranked, is going to get the better goalie. I'm not really high on Jack Campbell this season. Definitely not going to draft him.
For sure. Yeah, let someone else do it. And who's a fan of 50-50 splits anyway? I mean, you want the goalie who's 70-30, right? I mean...
Yeah.
I hate those 50-50s.
Yeah, the 50-50s, Jack Campbell would, in those situations, they might be nice as like a third or fourth goalie, and you can just start them when they do start. But yeah, I'm off the Jack Campbell train. Never really was on it.
What about Dougie Hamilton?
So then Dougie Hamilton, he goes from Carolina, which has a ton of talent on that team. He's on New Jersey. Not quite the same level of talent on New Jersey that he had on the power play and stuff. So I don't think he's going to be putting up the same like over 60-point numbers. I think his numbers are going to fall a little bit, and I think the power play points are going to fall a little bit. So I'm just not really down for drafting Dougie Hamilton super early where they have him ranked this year. I'm kind of going to go for more guys
average
later.
Draft position 50.
Yeah, so kind of, just he's not going to be a guy that I'm looking at for this season.
For sure. What about Sam Reinhart?
So Sam Reinhart, he started putting up good numbers 2 years ago, and then kind of had a good year last year. But he goes to Florida, which has an abundance of good forwards, and he's no longer he was on Buffalo. He's no longer a big fish in a small pond over there. I think he's going to struggle to find what line he belongs on, and and we'll see how he fits in Coach Quenneville's system. So I'm not sure how he's going to do in Florida. I would kind of be staying away from him because I think he's more of a system guy who, kind of benefited from somebody had to have a bunch of ice time in Buffalo.
Okay.
I don't know if he's going to get as much ice time in Florida, and he's going to have to earn it. Coach Q doesn't just give ice time out. So if he's not performing well at the beginning of the season, he'll get dropped down to the third line, and then he'll have to work his way back up. It just might be a frustrating player this season.
Okay, and how's he been doing in the preseason?
I haven't looked.
Okay.
But obviously we can monitor that too.
Yeah, I mean, was the coach part of signing him to a 3-year deal, or did they want him? He's only 25 too.
Maybe they wanted him. He's very young. I'm not saying he doesn't have potential. This is the first year of him being on a new team.
I want to see how he does with everybody. And okay, average draft position.
And I just know
66. So where would you draft him?
I wouldn't take him that early. I would be trying to draft him later than that.
Back 10 or?
I'd maybe around 8th, 10th area.
Okay.
Pick.
Joel Eriksson Ek.
Yeah, I'm not gonna bank that he's gonna continue what he did last year. He's gonna have to prove it to me. Usually when guys that come out of nowhere have a breakout season, I'm usually hesitant to get them the next season because I've been burned by that before, where guys don't ever get back to that level of play. I don't know if this was ever a highly touted prospect, so I mean, he very well could. He had a good year last year. I think forwards are a dime a dozen. This is just one that I found that I don't know that I would be clamoring to get on my team. And I'm just not a big believer in Minnesota either. I think last year they were just that team that no one expected to do anything. I'm not sure how good they really are.
So, would you take a late round flyer on him?
I would take him a late round flyer,
Okay.
but he's from where I saw, he's kind of ranked higher than I would be willing to take him this.
Yeah, I'm just kind of on the avoid train. I only picked him up and dropped him a couple times just because he was hot, but he's just kind of one of those guys. I mean, he's just a ride him while he's hot to me.
Yeah. And then another player that I'm kind of down on just for this season is Brent Burns. His numbers are kind of starting to fall every year now.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know that I don't think he's ever going to get at this point at his older age and everything. I don't think he's ever going to get back to being that number one defenseman, top 5 defenseman anymore. I think he's still a good player, but he's still ranked kind of high. And there's just a lot more to worry about now with Brent Burns than there used to be, even 2 years ago.
Yeah, 36 years old.
One of the main things being San Jose is just not that good anymore.
Okay.
So, combination of a bunch of things. I'm just kind of out on the Brent Burns whole bandwagon thing.
For sure. His average draft position is 83.5. Where would you draft him?
That's honestly probably a fair ranking, but I would.
You're just
because of
away.
his age and stuff, though. I'm just kind of staying away. I don't think that he's overvalued at all. I think 83 because he used to be a top 15 pick.
Even last year, I think he still was high.
Yeah, he was picked in the second or third round last season. So with our league.
Yeah, even with us, evaluating defensemen. Yeah. So.
And then.
Okay.
What's your question?
I guess in our league, if you have a league that values defense, his average draft position would be higher. So yeah. I'm going off of just the basic rankings.
Yeah.
All right. And then Ivan Provarov?
Yeah, I like Ivan Provorov, don't get me wrong. I'm just thinking, they made a bunch of moves over the offseason, Philly did. They bring in Rasmus Ristalinen, and they brought in another defenseman whose name is escaping me. But, you know, there's just more fish in that pond now.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not sure how it's all going to shake out. He obviously has been there the longest of all these guys, and he has the reputation, too, of being a good defenseman. So you could easily, be like, Zach, I think you're just reaching on this one a little bit. But I don't know. I think he's still going to be a good player. He kind of had a breakout last year.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just not sure with having more talented defensemen on the team now that he still might be a good player in like actual hockey terms. But as far as fantasy, he's not going to be the only one getting power play time. He's not going to be the only one defenseman shooting the puck. It's just.
Yeah, and he is.
I think
draft position's really high, even in regular points leagues.
I could definitely see his numbers taking a bit of a hit this season, and him still, like, if you watch their games, he'll be a very good defenseman. Like, I don't know if he's going to be as great in fantasy this season, and he's had a history before last year of kind of underperforming too. He's always been talked of as a highly touted player. So, he finally had like a breakout last year, but, he could easily dwindle from that this season.
Definitely. Yeah, I'd avoid him you'd have to wait for him to fall a bit. Because he's at 32. I mean, that's a big bet,
Yeah. And then lastly, I'm just kind of going to avoid Aaron Ekblad this season. I think he's a great player, and normally I would love to have him on my team. I just don't want to be rushing to draft him the year after an ACL tear.
Okay.
Because hockey's already a rough game on your body. I'm just not sure how great a shape he's going to be in. I'm sure he's trying to rush himself back to play, and he might play very well, but he might not be getting as many minutes as he would normally get just because they're trying to ease him in, and he's, still rehabbing still that knee. I think that you just avoid Aaron Ekblad this season. I think that he's going to be more of a headache this year. He might be sitting more games out.
He's ranked. He's right next to Brent Burns in draft position. So who would you go instead of these two, kind of thing?
So, I'm sorry, Jake. You kind of cut out there in my headphones. What did you say? He's ranked next
right
to
next to Brent Burns, who's also one of your fades.
Oh,
so who would you go?
I probably would still avoid both.
Yeah.
Of them.
So is there another player around that position just to give the listeners somebody?
Yeah. So I'm looking.
Like maybe Tyson Berry's right before them, but obviously him.
Yeah, I would probably go Tyson Berry for sure, right there. Or even Shea Theodore's a little bit before them. Thomas Chabot's right there.
All right.
Yeah, there's definitely defensemen. Like Tyson Berry would be the pick between those guys.
For sure. Yeah, and he's a little bit ahead of them, but only a couple. So, yeah, somebody might just take Brent Burns and you get Berry. So that'd be nice.
Yeah. Oh, and then lastly, I just seen this. Another guy that I'm kind of down on this year, kind of avoiding. I'm fully off the Mark Giordano bandwagon now.
Okay.
I know just a couple years ago he won the Norris Trophy, but I think those days are behind him, and now he's on a expansion team that I don't think is as good as Vegas was. I would be avoiding Mark Giordano, and they kind of have him highly ranked at 71. I'm not sure if I'm the biggest fan of that. Yeah, I don't think I would be in on Mark Giordano this season.
Okay, for sure.
And then another one that I kind of want to talk about lastly to wrap this up. Drew Dowdy. He's still kind of highly ranked at 64. I think I'm kind of starting to fade him a little bit. He's just getting up into that older age. That's the time I kind of start avoiding guys like that, and I'm probably not going to be one to be getting Drew Dowdy. He still might have a great year like he did last year, and I kind of was staying away from him last year too. And, sometimes that works, sometimes it doesn't. I mean, he still had a great year, but I think if you're a betting man, it's more likely that he starts to fall off than he has another great season at his age.
Yeah, I think we were even fading him last year, too.
We were, but he still finished good, is what I was
Okay.
saying. But, you know.
For sure. Yeah, see if he drops. But he gets the minutes, so I don't know. If you're a minutes guy, like you believe in that method, then he's all yours.
Yeah.
He's only 31. I thought he was older.
Yeah, I honestly did too. 31.
He could still be good.
Geez, that's John Carlson's the same age.
Yeah.
And I'm super high on John Carlson. So I don't know. I mean, just personal preference. I've never been a big Drew Dowdy or LA Kings fan, so I usually just avoid their players just because I don't like that team. But it's just one of those like I said, everybody has their biases, and Drew Dowdy is one of mine where I just usually stay away. And the one season I did have him was kind of an underperforming season from him, so I just kind of I'm like, okay, I'm done with that.
Did they make any signings?
Well, LA?
Yeah, like, are they trying to improve, or, like, is this a guy that could be traded to a good team?
Possibly. I'm not sure that... I honestly don't think that they signed anybody of note.
Yikes. Okay.
They just have a lot of young... They already have a lot of young guys in their system, like young draft picks.
So I know hockey isn't always making trades during the season, but would he be a guy that... I don't know, like, maybe you do like him a bit, and he could go to a better team that's going for a chip? Or would that...
Yeah, but you know, drafting, you can't... Yeah. There's no way to know that drafting.
Yeah, it's not like basketball where you know Ben Simmons is going. Yeah.
Yeah, hockey keeps a lot of that under wraps, so you usually don't know too much about those types of situations in hockey.
Yeah, for sure. All right.
But yeah, that kind of wraps up this episode. I hope that we gave you guys some good, information, and let us know what you think. Send us messages, send us comments. We'll just let us know how we always want to hear. If you liked any of this,
we always want to hear everybody's takes
feedback.
And yeah, just like Zach said. Sorry, we also want any feedback on the podcast and any improvements or anything you want to hear. So.
Yeah, I think that'll do it for another week, Jake, of hockey. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm excited to draft in 3 days.
Yeah, I feel like this was, I think this was also your draft prep here, Jake.
Yeah. Hey,
Recording
thanks, bro. I mean, I have probably the 4 best keepers in the league, so it's going to be easy cake for the next couple years.
Yeah, if you guys are listening, he's always been this cocky, so.
I'm always talking crap, but I was... Okay, there's only been 4 years, correct? Of our main league. So I won the first year, then you won.
Then Robbie
it's been 5 years. Then Aaron Zabricki won.
This is, yeah.
But I was like third place all the 3 years in between my chips. So it's not like I'm bad. I just don't know everybody's name by heart.
Yeah, but I mean, your best team was your auto-drafted team.
No, this was last year. So. Come on. Get out of here.
I don't know.
Get out of here. Yeah, so, all right. We'll let him go. But my auto-drafted team basically got Kucherov in his breakout year, so it was kind of...
Kucherov in his breakout year, Erik Karlsson in his Norris Trophy winning year.
Yeah, it was a good time.
Yeah. He had the number 1 forward and the number 1 defenseman on that team that season.
I don't even know if I made a trade. I just told Zach I'd do the league and I would set my lineup. So
this freaking guy wins.
Yeah. Well,
all right. Well, hey, thanks for listening,
guys. Thanks, guys.
Jake and I are going to continue this argument off air.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Thanks, everyone.
All right. Bye, everybody.